Alright, thanks for tuning in. This is going to be my review of last night's feature presentation on December the 13th, 2024, a Friday. Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, 1989. This was the last in the series, released in the 80s, and it was also the last in the series that was released by Paramount. It went to New Line after this. You can see the VHS here. This one is from Video 2000 in Richmond, Virginia. They were closing. 96 minutes long. You can see the back there. This one was written and directed by Rob Hedden. This is Rob Hedden's debut script and direction for a first feature film. The cast, we'll run through the cast. So we have Jensen Daggett, pictured on the back with Jason there. So Jensen Daggett plays Rennie. She's our last girl, and she wasn't in much else. She was in, I think, 4 episodes of Home Improvement with a recurring character. And I've also seen her in Major League Back to the Minors, 1998 maybe was the release of that film, which is also known as Major League 3. So she had a big role in that, but other than that, really not much else. Her love interest in the film, the main actor, would be Sean. He's played by Scott Reeves, who it was in nothing else really, and he had the right looks and everything, and not a very great actor. And in the director actor commentary on the Paramount release of all of the Paramount 8 releases, I gotta say, he's a real dork in his commentary. Kane Hodder is a lot better. Speaking of Kane Hodder, Kane Hodder makes his second appearance in this film as Jason. If you don't know who Kane Hodder is, he played Jason in 4 of the Friday the 13th films. He's been a stunt actor in a lot of things, and he's been, acted some in some other films. He is, still doing stuff today. He was in a movie called VIII that I think some of you may have heard of, VIII, and did some stunts in that one. Charles McCulloch, the teacher, is played by Peter Mark Rickman, who died in 2021. Peter Mark Rickman, not a well-known actor, but he was in a lot of films. He was in, going back to a 1966 crime kind of James Bond ripoff movie where he's the star, called Agent for Harm, 1966. This was riffed by MST3K. It's a fairly good one. He showed up in Naked Gun 2.5, and he was in a movie I saw recently, a short film called The Final Show, 2016. That was his last movie. He was also, as I just found out about a month ago, he was the voice of God in the 1979 Brad Crandall narrated film In Search of Historic Jesus. So he had a pretty big role in that. Barbara Bingham is in this. She's the other like an English teacher. She plays Colleen, an English teacher. And you also have the rest of the cast includes Vincent Dupree as Julius, a very memorable character. He was in South Central 1992. It's probably the most known thing he's been in, Vincent Dupree, and he was very good as Julius, very lovable character. Harlan Martin is Tamara in this, the blonde. She was in nothing else to really of mention, of note. Saffron Henderson plays JJ, the guitar slinger with the kind of leather outfit, dark hair. She did mostly cartoon voices. Who else do we have? Martin Cummins as Wayne, the shockumentary guy, the guy who's going around with a VHS camcorder the whole time. He was in a TV series called Riverdale, and he was in, thought I heard a deer there. He was in, most notably, Omen 4, The Awakening, 1991, as a very, very short role as a drifter. He was the drifter who runs after the dog that saves Delia's life from the tractor trailer. Okay, so he's in Omen 4. So good to see Martin Cummins, and Martin Cummins is good in this. You also have Kelly Hu plays Eva. I don't even think her voice is, her name is even mentioned, like her character name, but it's Eva. She's been in a lot of stuff. Mostly, she did a lot of voice acting. She was in a few episodes of Growing Pains. She was she did like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle voices, a lot of video game voices and stuff like that. She's still busy. She's in a 2024 film called Joe Baby. Okay, we also have Warren Munson, who plays Admiral Robertson, who's also the father of Sean Robertson, the main male character. He was in Intrepid 2000, but I've also seen him in the Amityville Horror Evil Escapes from the same year as Jason X Manhattan, 1989. That's Warren Munson. We have Roger Barnes as the New York cop. He's a face you've seen before, so you might recognize Roger Barnes. Peggy Hedden is in this as maybe her only film appearance as the New York waitress. Welcome to New York. In the little all-night diner, open to 3 a.m. as always. So she's the sister of Rob Hedden, the director. And then also in that New York diner, you have Ken Kersinger, also a stunt guy. Ken Kersinger plays the New York cook. He, as most of you know, would end up playing Jason Voorhees himself in the movie Freddy vs. Jason 2003. Ken Kersinger plays Jason, very unpopular Jason. And for those of you who don't like his portrayal of Jason in that movie, which includes pretty much everybody, including Kane Hodder, and probably including Ken Kersinger, you'll be delighted to see the scene where the one scene he's in where he approaches Jason after he breaks the door down, and Jason lifts him up. Kersinger's a huge guy, by the way. Lifts up Kersinger and throws him across the counter and into the little window thing. So you'll like seeing that. We have Amber Pollock is the little girl who plays the young Rennie in the flashback. This is kind of interesting. Amber Pollock has only been in 2 things. One was this, where she's in the flashback of her getting pushed into the lake by her uncle for some weird reason. But she was also in one episode of a TV series called Danger Bay in 1989, same year as this movie. One episode where she plays drowning child. So I'm not sure which came first, but whichever came first, the other saw one of the performances and said, "Oh, she's good at being in water and drowning." So she was typecast, to say the least. Where are you now, Amber Pollock? We have Tim Merkovich, who plays the little Jason in some of the flashbacks. So the ending, what most call a hallucination, when in the sewer, is Tim Tim Merkovich, and I think he's also in. I think he's also at the beginning where she sees a flashback to where she no when Susie and what's his name, he's telling Susie the story in the boat at Crystal Lake. There was this kid named Jason, and they show a flashback, and I think that one is played by Tim Merkovich. But anyway, still, Tim Merkovich was the son of Steve Merkovich, who was the editor of this movie. So that's how he got in. So Tim Merkovich got to play Jason Voorhees, got to be was one of the Jasons. And then you have Tiffany Paulson as the aforementioned Susie Donaldson, and I forget the name of her boyfriend that she's with on the boat in Crystal Lake. That they bring him back to life, but that he's trapped under from the chains in from part 7. They're the ones who get killed off. They're part of the high school class. They get killed off first in this movie, but I forget the guy who plays the boyfriend there, but he's a good-looking guy, and I'm sure he was in something else, but I didn't have his name listed. All right, some others in the cast. We have David Longworth as the sanitation guy in the sewer. This guy was good in the film. I thought he was pretty good in his role. As he was in Deadpool 2016. He's been in some movies. So, and then you have Ace plays Toby the dog. So Ace is in this. We had an Ace playing last night in trivia, not Ace Leopard, but in the Leopard room. Wow, Ace playing trivia in the Leopard room. How about that? Ace was in 2 movies. Ace was in this movie, and he was in The Odyssey, a TV series. All right, so he played the dog on that series. And then finally, Alex Dakin, who was pretty good as the deckhand. He was in 5 episodes of The X-Files. He goes back. His acting goes back to the 70s, but Alex Dakin, who kind of reprises the role of, he's kind of the crazy Ralph of this movie. So the cast in this film leaves a lot to be desired. It's most of the casts are like that in Friday the 13th, but this cast is very weak, and it's the only one of note. It's a kind of a semi-known actor would be Peter Mark Rickman. He's the best actor by far in this movie. Barbara Bingham is pretty solid too, but the rest are pretty forgettable. But it's not as bad as Part 7. Part 7 is probably my least favorite cast in the entire franchise. But Part 8 is for the most part a rehashing of the characters from Part 7. So you have Rennie here is very similar to Tina in Part 7 in that she's got a backstory. She's got some, I guess, kind of mental things going on. She's got, and then, so she's just, reminds me a little bit of Tina. She's probably the weakest. She's one of the weakest final girls in the series. Right up there with, Dewey, Jennifer Cook from Part 6, who's pretty weak. Tom Matthews does all the work, really, in that to get Jason. The one from Jason Goes to Hell is pretty weak too. Scott Reeves as Sean, that's kind of a rehashing of the guy from Part 7, the main guy played by Kevin Spirtus. Forget his name in the movie, but Kevin Spirtus's character is the kind of toe the line, good-looking brunette guy who becomes a love interest of the main character. So he's similar, survives through the movie, very similar to Kevin Spiritus's character. Now Kevin Spiritus is a better actor than Scott Reeves, but I found him to be more annoying. I didn't like him as much. Scott Reeves is okay, not as annoying to me. And then you have the Peter Mark Rickman's character, Charles McCulloch. is similar to Terry Kaiser's Dr. Cruz, I think, from Part 7. He's a little, can't really trust him. He's a little bit of the guardian, trying to. He was kind of close to the main girl. He's got the other female kind of presence there that is kind of against him a little bit in, in Colleen, Barbara Bingham's character, just like in Part 7. Blue is her last name. Susan Blue, I think, is the actress. So there's kind of a tension thing there. So that's rehashed. The Vincent Dupree, I guess, would be the token black character is rehashed. But this one's good, actually. The ones in there was a black couple in Part 7, The New Blood, that was probably the most dismissible characters in the history of the franchise. They get snuffed out in the van, and there's zero development there. So I guess that would be the comparison. Harlan Martin's character Tamara is just like is almost identical to the really annoying user girl from Part 7 who gets killed at the end. So very similar, blonde, using other guys. So that's the most rehashed character from Part 8. And then you have another one that's very similar is there's even kind of like a stoner guy in this that's similar to the stoner guy in Part 7. I don't have his name down, but he's one of the guys at the end on the boat that during the storm, Jason, I think, throws him off the ladder or something. They climb up, but that guy's a little bit like the stoner from Part 7. And then you have the Kelly Hu is similar to Maddie in Part 7. So Kelly Hu is like Maddie. It's kind of leans more conservative, and the more promiscuous and like drug user girl tries to push her a little more into the experimenting and things. So that's similar with Tamara and Eva here, and Kelly doesn't want to get busted, and she's kind of the good girl, similar to Maddie. I think Maddie was probably the best character of all those extras in Part 7. I mean, it's just terribly annoying, that whole cast. I can't stand them. But Maddie was kind of cool. She had the glasses, and she was real plain looking. Then she kind of gives herself a little makeover at the end. So Kelly Hu is kind of similar to her. And then, who else? Martin Cummings as Wayne is similar to the dork in Part 7, the guy who was like the sci-fi writer, and he likes he thinks he's got a chance with the blonde girl, but she's using him. Well, similarly in Part 8, Martin Cummings has the major hots for Tamara since 10th grade, sophomore year. He's a similar kind of dorky guy. He's into like filmography and shooting videos and stuff, and she uses him. So very similar character, but much more likable. I don't like that guy, the sci-fi writer in Part 7. God, he's just annoying. But Martin Cummings, who would show up a couple of years later in Omen 4, I like his character. Wayne, you're an a-hole. So he's good. So there's a lot of similarities to the cast in Part 7. This film fluctuates on my top list. I forgot where I had it in my video for ranking the order of my favorite Friday the 13th films. Maybe it was like 6th, but it kind of fluctuates from like anywhere from as low as 7 to up to like 5, so it kind of moves up and down. Sometimes it depends on the mood really for this, but the first time I saw it, I thought it was not very good, and then it grew on me. I like the the opening is, I think, is excellent. The with the Paramount, and then it leads into the shot of New York City. And it's a teaser because none of this is hardly any of this is in New York. This is also called, affectionately known as Jason Takes Vancouver, not Jason Takes Manhattan, because it's mostly shot in Vancouver. But I love the dark, kind of the night scene of New York and the song playing, "Darkest Side of the Night" by Metropolis. It's a really good one, and it's a really good part. And then I like how that leads into it segues into Crystal Lake and the boat, and it's still night. I love that picture there. The boat scene with Susie and her boyfriend, it's pretty good. I really like the opening part on the Lazarus, the big cruise ship boat for the senior class, which is really weird. They have a cruise, but anyway. I really like the opening of the kind of the optimism and the celebration, and showing them playing shuffleboard and things like that on the boat, and another good song playing during that time. By the way, the soundtrack is one thing I love about this movie. I think it's one of the better soundtracks. I think The Darkest Side of the Night, to open the movie and then to close it out with the credits, is one of it might be the best song in the franchise's history. I mean, probably He's Back, The Man Behind the Mask by Alice Cooper from Part 6 deserves that number one spot. That song, but Darkest Side of the Night would be 2, and then probably His Eyes by Pseudo Echo from Part 5 would be 3. I should do a top 10 list of favorite songs in the film's history. That'd be a good video. But another one that's playing during the opening scenes on the Lazarus, I kind of like too. It's called "Say This to Me" by some random unknown band called like Neo A4, Duke Saint Records. So it sounds like just a kind of cheesy late '80s type of music, but it really fits the scene. I like it. This movie also has a great song, the Julius version of Theme from New York, New York. A little clip of it. If I can try to get there, woohoo, New York. Dewey loves that one too. So that's a good one. It's a solid. The music in this is good. I guess Harry Manfredini did Harry Manfredini did the soundtrack music too. I think it's pretty good in this. It's not inappropriate. It fits most of the scenes. So the scene, just most of the dark stuff is good. Most of most of this movie is dark. The what other scene is good? Some of the ones that are bad are like the JJ scene with the guitar. I don't like her at all. She's one of my least favorite characters. I think she was the first killed on the boat. JJ, played by Saffron Henderson. She's this like Joan Jett wannabe with this, like, fake kind of dyed hair, and she plays a guitar with a really bad guitar riffs. So that's in her killing scene is kind of weak with the guitar, like killing her with a guitar. So it's kind of cheap. But I think the Kelly Hu death scene is pretty weak in the disco place. I like the quick shots of the class dancing down there in the restaurant. That's pretty good. The scene that is most iconic in this film is the Jason punching off Julius's head, the boxing match. I don't like it. I just thought it's really stupid. I guess it was real, the boxing, like he was actually taking swings at Jason and hitting him and stuff. So I appreciate that aspect of it, but the whole thing, to have him punch his head off, is just really like just a little bit too cheap for me. It's not one of I think it's one of the most overrated kills from Jason. I think Kane Hodder's performance in this is one of, it might be his best performance of in playing Jason Voorhees. Some people might say no, it's definitely part 7. This is the wet Jason, so it's the one they call it wet Jason because his clothes are mostly sopping from the lake and the ocean or wherever the heck they are. But I think he's got excellent screen presence in this. His kind of pop when you see his head popping out in scenes is really good. He breaks through a wooden door a couple times. He breaks through glass is really cool. His subway scene I think is awesome when they put the brakes through the emergency brake and he falls back and then pops right back up. I think that's really good. The way he pushes people out of the way is really cool. He's really strong in this movie. It's almost like Ted White from part 4, kind of strong. The thing I don't like about it is the whole like hyperspacing and being in the invincibility. I'm not a big fan of that. Like they're shooting through him, but that's zombie Jason for you. So, but I think he's just excellent in this. His killing scene in the sewer is awesome too, with the sanitation guy. I think Kane Hodder really was coming into his own as Jason Voorhees in this particular version of it. So he was really good in this. The characters are again really bad. Warren Munson as the Admiral Robertson is kind of underrated. This guy's a solid actor, and I thought one of the complaints people have about these films that they don't develop the characters enough for you to care about them once they die, and usually that's the case. But this one they did a really good job, I thought, of developing him. They didn't have a lot of time with this guy, but they did a really good job as far as the writing and his acting is showing him and he's an older, he's a dad, and he's a accomplished admiral of a sea captain, and he's kind of pushed his son a little bit too hard to follow in his footsteps. And the last we see of him is talking to his second in command guy, who's a younger guy who has a 2-year-old, and Admiral Robertson is advising him, don't push your son too hard. That's like his last line in the film, and you can see he's kind of regretting and feeling bad about being too tough on Sean, his son, and then that's when Jason kills him right afterwards. So you do have feel kind of bad when that happens. I didn't like to see Wayne die in this. Martin Cummings' character, I liked him a lot. The dorky film guy. But by far the best character and actor is Peter Mark Rickman is the best actor in this, and his character Charles McCulloch is the best character. He might be one of the best characters in the history, in the whole franchise. One of my favorite characters. That would be another video, top 10 favorite characters from Friday the 13th. He's just awesome in this. He's so stern and just stuck up and so easy to root against. In the scene with Tamara is just I got us some wine, Charles, and just his reaction to it is awesome. He is great in that scene. What else do I like? Most of the New York stuff I don't like. When they get to New York, I don't like the kicking the boombox over was kind of goofy. There's a lot of goofy stuff, but there's also some good stuff like the elevator and I like the sewer scene. I actually kind of like when they go into the sewer. It's a pretty strong and intense scene up to the point where Rennie has the toxic, or up to the point where she knocks his mask off where she throws the toxic waste or whatever drum at him, and his face looks really, really stupid. cartoonish, and he yells in this like dinosaur groan type of thing, and like you had Kane Hodder like and just real, trying to do his best with the situation, and it's just impossible to overcome that kind of thing. Like we really needed some Tom Savini makeup there, and it would have been a good scene, like from part 4, the final chapter, or even John Carl Buchler. I think he did the makeup. I know he was the director of part 7, even though part 7 is my second to least favorite. The special effects were probably the best in the series as far as with Jason. If that face even was good in part 7, but in part 8 it's just terrible. And then he's stumbling around, and they kind of cheapen his character in a way, and he pukes up like toxic waste or something at the end when they're on the ladder. It's just really degrading, I think, to Jason. They should have followed the line from the Metropolis song, Darkest Side of the Night, when it says, show some respect. And that's what I always think about when I hear that song. Show some respect with Jason Voorhees at all costs, especially on Friday the 13th, baby. So, that scene, I do like that scene, the whole sewer thing, but it's really messed up by his face, by his mannerisms, the way they cheapen him, and by the kid Jason. Like, everybody in the franchise fanship agrees on that. That really was a bad idea to do that. Now, if you think of it like most people would agree, the theory that Rennie was hallucinating there, and after all, she was drugged up by the would-be rapist gang. That was a weird scene. I think it, in the fact that she is hallucinating throughout. That's another thing I don't like about this film. The hallucinations that she has. She sees Jason, and he looks different. He's got a weird eyeball. She sees Jason the kid. He's reaching at her and grabbing her throat, and one of them is like Asian looking, and it's just a stupid backstory. It's just a ridiculous, needless backstory. It rivals Chris's stupid backstory from part 3 with the rapist Jason incident. God, it's terrible. I don't know which one's worse. Probably the part 3 one, but this one's pretty bad. The uncle pushing her in the lake. But if you think about that sewer scene where the toxic waste goes over Jason, and then he turns into a boy, like the boy Jason. He's just lying there in his boxers. What the heck is going on there? But I choose to believe that she's hallucinating that, because she had these other hallucinations, and she was just drugged up by the gang members in New York just within the last hour. So I choose to see it that way. And for some of the people in the Friday the 13th franchise fans, the community, some of them do choose to see this film as the ending of the franchise. To them, Jason died in New York. He turned into the kid, and then he died there. And that's the end. And if that's your position on it, like, I respect it. That's fine. I don't share it, but I do, that's how you want to go with it. It does feel like it could be an ending. I choose to go with part 1 through 8, and then it skips to he dies, or he is Jason. It's a hallucination. Jason is kind of washed away, and then he's continues to kill after that, and then they finally detain him and put him in chains in Jason X, and he goes to the cryogenic chamber to put him, freeze him, and it ends with Jason X. He disintegrates in space, and then the mask goes into the water on Earth 2, and it you know, and that's where it ends for me. Now maybe there's a sequel there where they can regenerate the cells from his mask for a upcoming sequel, and because it is the year 2455, who knows, and somehow regenerate an entire, you know, get Jason back. I'd be cool with that. But for me, it goes from part 1 to 8, and then Jason X. Okay, so Jason Goes to Hell and Freddy versus Jason. To me, I choose to take those films as like separate hypothetical films. Like, this is what would happen if this happened, kind of thing. Like, just separate things. And they're still well, Jason Goes to Hell is watchable. I don't watch Freddy versus Jason. So that's my personal timeline on it. So those are the things I like and don't like about Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, 1989. It really fits like a night viewing, and kind of, since this was December the 13th, and I do watch Jason X every year after Christmas and before New Year's Eve. This is a good one to set up Jason X, but it's definitely a good time waster, if nothing else. It's definitely not one of the better ones in the series. It's a very polarizing one for fans of the series. For critics, Leonard Maltin called it one of the best horror sequels ever made, or like one of the most creative sequels ever made. And then others have said it's like just the worst. Fans are really split on it. I'm split on it because sometimes it's, you know, I recognize that it has a lot of bad qualities about it, but it also has a lot of comfort food type of viewing about it. There's not a whole lot here that I'm just like, I can't, you know, I'm gonna leave the room and I don't like this part. It's all pretty fun. It's you know, Jason swimming from the sinking Lazarus all the way to New York is really stupid to me, but because he's hyper spaced previously in this film, like for example the JJ death down with the guitar, he's just randomly hyperspaces and climbing the tower thing when there's a storm. I'm fine with suspending belief. So that's my review of Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan, 1989, Part 8. And I hope you guys, if you haven't seen it, check it out. Kane Hodder does a great job in this as Wet Jason. Jason Takes Vancouver. Let me know what you think, where you rate it, and I will. And I hope you enjoy that ending. Is also really great. I think I love that ending, like after the boy Jason. So I love the shot of Sean and Rennie in New York City together. He's got the little necklace with the Empire State's building, and it's just this real nice dark atmosphere. And there's the little fake scare where Toby, played by Ace, comes up, and you thinking maybe it's Jason, but it's the dog. And I love, and then it kind of pans up, and you get the credits, and Darkest Side of the Night plays. It's an excellent ending. So it's bookended by the song, and I think that really, really helps this movie a lot. And it's also with the dog at the end. That also is a nice little callback to my favorite film in Friday the 13th, Part 2, where Muffy, the dog at the end, is the kind of the fake scare with Jenny and Paul Holt, and then you know, the dog at the end. So nice little callback to that. All right. What are you taking with you, Julius? As they said, nothing.
except this gun.
All right, guys. See you later. Thanks for watching.